Chosen one, everything they did to destroy you just backfired spectacularly. The money they've been hiding from you, the benefits they've been stealing, the inheritance they thought they'd keep forever, it's all coming back to you with interest, and there's absolutely nothing they can do to stop what's already in motion. The phone call came at 3 in the morning. Chosen one, not to your phone, to theirs. The voice on the other end spoke just 2 words before hanging up. We know. In that moment, the person sleeping next to you, the one who claimed to love you through every struggle, felt their blood turn to ice. Because after years of orchestrating your poverty, after countless nights of stealing your energy while you slept, after systematically destroying every opportunity that came your way, their carefully constructed empire of lies had just received its death sentence. But that phone call was just the beginning of an unraveling that had been set in motion long before anyone dialed those numbers. Federal investigators had been watching this conspiracy for months, building a case so airtight that even the most corrupt officials couldn't wiggle out of what was coming. Every forged signature had been photographed by surveillance teams. Every falsified psychiatric report had been cross-referenced with authentic medical records. Every stolen dollar had been traced through financial networks that leave digital footprints impossible to erase. The person beside you thought they were executing the perfect crime, but they were actually performing for an audience of federal agents who'd seen this type of elaborate fraud before and knew exactly how to dismantle it, piece by piece. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start where this really began, back when you still believed their tears were real and their promises weren't poison. Back when you thought the exhaustion that hit you every time you were near them was just stress, when you assumed your mail disappearing was postal incompetence, when you blamed yourself for the mysterious ways your phone would glitch whenever you tried to access certain accounts. You see, chosen one, you've been living inside the most elaborate spiritual heist in modern history, and the person orchestrating it has been sharing your bed, studying your habits, learning your weaknesses, and documenting your strengths so they could turn them against you. The inheritance was always yours. Your grandmother's life insurance, your mother's estate, the family trust that should have lifted you from struggle years ago. Every penny of it has been flowing into accounts bearing your name, but controlled by hands that never belonged to your bloodline. While you scraped together rent money and wondered why abundance felt like a foreign concept, someone else was living your life, spending your money, and laughing at how easily they'd convinced the world you were too mentally unstable to manage your own affairs. They even had the audacity to use your stolen funds to pay for the psychological evaluations designed to prove your incompetence. Suddenly, people you'd never met were filing complaints about your mental state. Social workers were showing up at your door with concerned expressions and official paperwork that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. Family members you trusted were nodding sadly as they explained to authorities how you'd changed, how you'd become unpredictable, how you clearly needed professional help. What you didn't know was that while you were being evaluated by psychiatrists who'd been paid to reach predetermined conclusions, your identity thief was practicing your signature in different handwriting styles and memorizing every detail of your personal history that could be used to pass verification checks. Every doctor's appointment you thought was confidential was being reported to your conspirators. Every medication you were prescribed was being monitored to ensure it kept you compliant and confused. Every therapy session you attended was being used to gather intelligence about your emotional triggers and psychological vulnerabilities. The false twin would come home from work and ask how your day went, pretending to care about your well-being while actually collecting data for the next phase of their systematic destruction of your credibility and legal standing. But the universe has been building a case file of its own. Every forged signature was photographed by cosmic investigators. Every lie told in courtrooms was recorded by spiritual stenographers. Every dollar stolen was marked by divine auditors who never sleep and never forget. And when federal investigators finally stumbled onto this conspiracy, they discovered they weren't the first ones investigating. They were simply being allowed to see what higher powers had already documented in excruciating detail. The breakthrough came when a forensic accountant noticed patterns that defied logical explanation. Money flowing into accounts that shouldn't exist, connected to social security numbers that belonged to people who were supposedly institutionalized for mental incompetence. When they started digging deeper, they found a network of corruption so vast and so brazen that it took their breath away. Judges signing commitment orders for people they'd never seen, psychiatrists filing reports on patients they'd never examined, lawyers transferring assets for clients who'd never hired them, bank officials approving transactions that violated every protocol they'd been trained to follow. The person you trusted most, your so-called twin flame, wasn't just complicit in this scheme, they were the architect. Every moment of intimacy was a reconnaissance mission designed to gather intelligence about your family history, your personal documents, your emotional triggers, and your spiritual practices. Every time they held you while you cried about your financial struggles, they were mentally calculating how much longer they could keep you in this state of dependence. Every promise they made about your future together was a lie designed to keep you from looking too closely at your present circumstances or questioning why opportunities kept slipping away just when success seemed within reach. They knew exactly what you were worth before they ever spoke to you, chosen one. This wasn't a relationship that evolved into fraud. This was fraud disguised as a relationship from the very first conversation. They researched your family background, identified the inheritance you were due to receive, and positioned themselves as your savior during a manufactured crisis designed to make you grateful for their presence in your life. The timing of your meeting wasn't coincidence, it was coordination between multiple bad actors who needed someone on the inside to monitor your activities and report back about any attempts you might make to investigate your financial situation. The spiritual warfare began when you started asking questions. Remember, suddenly your dreams became nightmares, filled with faceless threats and impossible scenarios that left you waking up more exhausted than when you went to sleep. Your energy would drain completely after spending time with them, leaving you too exhausted to pursue opportunities or investigate discrepancies in your financial records. Objects would move in your home when you weren't looking, not enough to be obvious but sufficient to make you question your memory and perception. Electronics would malfunction at crucial moments, right when you were about to make important phone calls, submit job applications or research legal options. Your intuition, that gift that made you a chosen one in the first place, was being systematically suppressed through rituals performed with your own personal belongings. They stole your clothes, chosen one. Not just any clothes, specific items you wore during powerful moments, pieces that carried your energy signature and held memories of your highest vibrational states. These weren't random thefts of convenience, they were calculated acquisitions for ceremonial purposes that would make ancient practitioners of dark arts proud of their thoroughness. While you slept beside them, trusting and vulnerable, they were conducting rituals designed to bind your spiritual power to their will, to create energetic cords that would allow them to drain your life force even when you were physically separated. Your hairbrush, your jewelry, even photographs from your childhood, all of it was weaponized against you in ceremonies performed during new moon phases when the veil between dimensions is thinnest. They understood your empathic nature better than you did, and they used it as a feeding ground, creating artificial emotional crises that would spike your energy output so they could harvest it more efficiently. Every fight they picked, every emotional manipulation they deployed, every moment they made you feel crazy or unstable, it was all designed to keep you operating from your lower chakras where your power could be more easily accessed and redirected. But energy cannot be permanently stolen, only temporarily redirected, and when that energy snaps back to its rightful owner, it carries compound interest that reflects every moment of theft, every instance of manipulation, every hour of suffering that was artificially imposed. The person who's been draining you for years is about to discover what happens when a chosen one finally breaks free from artificial constraints and reclaims their full spiritual authority. Their health will deteriorate in ways that mirror exactly how they made you feel. Mysterious fatigue, unexplained anxiety, physical symptoms that doctors cannot diagnose or treat effectively. The Obsidian Inner Order is where you can process these difficult realizations with people who understand that some of life's most painful experiences become our greatest teachers. We don't encourage bitterness, we encourage wisdom. Your ability to see people's true character is a gift that will protect you from future betrayals. Your willingness to forgive while maintaining boundaries shows strength, not weakness. Your wisdom was earned through experience, not given freely. Connect with people who value truth. Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. The FI didn't stumble onto this case by accident. Someone called them. Someone who'd been watching this conspiracy unfold for months, documenting every move, building an airtight case against everyone involved, while maintaining deep cover that none of the conspirators suspected. That person who seemed to appear in your life randomly during your darkest moments, the one who asked too many questions but somehow always made you feel safer, who showed up at convenient times with helpful advice and genuine concern. They weren't a curious stranger. They were federal protection, a guardian angel with a badge and subpoena power, who'd been assigned to monitor your situation while investigators built their case. The meetings about your money have been happening weekly for months, in locations the participants thought were secure. Your karmic father, the false twin, the identity thief living under your name, corrupt lawyers, paid-off social workers, crooked psychiatrists, all of them gathering in back rooms to discuss how to maintain control over resources that were never theirs, how to extend your institutionalization, how to access additional accounts they hadn't yet discovered. What they didn't know was that every meeting was being recorded through surveillance equipment that would make intelligence agencies jealous. Every phone call was being monitored by federal wiretaps. Every financial transaction was being traced by forensic accountants who specialized in organized fraud cases. The psychiatric ward incident was their masterpiece of manipulation, the culmination of months of careful planning and systematic reputation destruction. While you were being held for evaluation based on false reports they'd filed, your identity double was opening new accounts in your name and transferring funds they'd spent years accumulating through their elaborate shell game. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Declare you mentally incompetent through paid psychiatric testimony, assume legal guardianship through corrupt court proceedings, and keep you medicated and institutionalized while they lived your life and spent your inheritance without any oversight or accountability. But they made one crucial error. They underestimated the power of bloodline protection that activates when a chosen one faces an existential threat. Your ancestors didn't just intervene when those psychiatric evaluations began. They orchestrated a divine intervention so precise and powerful that every professional involved was compelled to question everything they thought they knew about your case. The doctors conducting your assessment found themselves inexplicably driven to dig deeper, to ask questions that weren't on their standard forms, to investigate claims that seemed too convenient, and testimonies that felt rehearsed rather than authentic. Within a few moments, they'd determined not only that you were completely sane, but that someone had attempted to manipulate their professional judgment through falsified documents and coached testimony that contradicted observable evidence. The FBI was called before you were even released, and federal agents were waiting in the parking lot when your discharge papers were signed. The false twin received a phone call that evening from someone claiming to be a hospital administrator, asking detailed questions about your relationship and their knowledge of your family financial situation. They thought they were helping to cover their tracks. They were actually providing federal agents with recorded testimony that would be used against them in court. The house arrest warrants were served while you were still recovering from the psychological trauma of institutional betrayal, still trying to process the magnitude of what had been done to you by people you trusted most. Your identity thief is currently wearing an ankle monitor, forbidden from accessing any financial institutions or using electronic devices without federal supervision. The false twin is being monitored 24 hours a day, their every move tracked by agents who've been building criminal cases against organized fraud rings for decades and know exactly how these conspiracies try to cover their tracks when they sense law enforcement closing in. The family members who participated in your persecution are discovering that conspiracy charges carry federal prison sentences that make their local corruption connections completely worthless. The corrupt officials who accepted bribes to participate in your false institutionalization are facing federal investigations that will end their careers and strip them of their pensions. The lawyers who helped forge documents are being disbarred and charged with federal crimes that carry mandatory minimum sentences because they involved elderly abuse and inheritance fraud. But the spiritual justice is even more immediate and devastating than the legal consequences, chosen one. The black magic they've been using against you is reversing with compound interest that reflects every moment of suffering they artificially imposed on your life. That person sleeping fitfully in a bed they paid for with your stolen money is being visited by every spiritual entity they tried to bind to their will. The protective spirits of your bloodline, the ancestors who left you that inheritance, the guides who were assigned to your spiritual mission, all of them are now focused on the people who tried to prevent you from fulfilling your destiny. The clothes they stole from your closet are making them physically ill when they wear them, causing rashes and mysterious allergic reactions that doctors cannot explain or treat. The rituals they performed to drain your energy are now draining theirs at triple the intensity, and they lack the spiritual protection that comes with divine favor and clean living. The energetic cords they created to siphon your power have become conduits for cosmic justice that's flowing backward into their lives with unstoppable force. The false twin is suffering in ways that would break a normal person's mind, experiencing a complete spiritual breakdown that no amount of medication or therapy can address. The genuine love they experienced through you, love they'd never felt before and will never feel again, is now a constant reminder of what they traded for temporary material gain and the illusion of control over another human being. They're discovering that authentic connection cannot be replicated through manipulation, that the energy they stole from you was the only thing making their empty existence bearable, and that without access to your light, they're drowning in their own darkness while fully conscious of what they've lost. Their relationships are crumbling with the same systematic precision they used to isolate you from your support systems. Friends are distancing themselves as the truth about their character becomes undeniable. Family members are cutting contact to avoid being associated with someone under federal investigation. Professional associates are refusing to work with them as word spreads through their industry about the criminal charges. The social standing they tried to build through stolen money and false personas is collapsing faster than they can attempt damage control. Your financial restoration began the moment federal investigators realized the scope of what had been stolen and the number of agencies that would need to be involved in your restitution. The inheritance accounts are being unfrozen as we speak, with forensic accountants working around the clock to trace every dollar that was illegally diverted. The life insurance policies that were redirected are being restored to their rightful beneficiary with interest calculated from the moment of improper diversion. The trust funds that were accessed through forged documents are being replenished with penalty interest that will more than compensate for years of illegal withdrawals and unauthorized expenditures. But the money is just the beginning of your vindication, chosen one. The corrupt officials who participated in your persecution are facing federal charges that will end their careers and land them in prisons far from their local protection networks, where their corruption cannot shield them from consequences. The mental health professionals who accepted bribes to falsify your evaluations are losing their licenses and facing malpractice lawsuits that will bankrupt them completely, while exposing the entire network of professionals who participated in similar schemes against other vulnerable individuals. The lawyers who helped forge documents are being disbarred and charged with federal crimes that carry mandatory minimum sentences because they involved vulnerable adult abuse and inheritance fraud. The bank officials who processed illegal transactions are facing federal banking violations that will result in lifetime bans from financial institutions. The social workers who filed false reports are losing their credentials and facing charges that will prevent them from ever working with vulnerable populations again. Your real spiritual family is about to reveal itself now that the false ones are being removed through divine intervention and federal justice. The people who recognize your light and want to amplify it rather than steal it have been waiting for this moment, positioned like pieces on a cosmic chessboard, ready to move into your life as soon as the pretenders are cleared away. Your genuine twin flame, the one whose frequency matches yours without requiring either of you to diminish, has been protected from this chaos, specifically so they could enter your life clean of all karmic interference and manipulation attempts. These authentic connections have been watching your situation from a distance, guided by their own intuition to stay away until the danger passed, but also preparing themselves to support your healing and celebrate your victory. They understood on a soul level that you were under attack, and they respected the process you needed to go through to develop the discernment and spiritual authority that would make you immune to future deception. Your real family doesn't need to steal your energy because they generate their own. They don't need to control you because they trust divine timing and cosmic justice. The identity thief is discovering that living under someone else's name comes with consequences they never anticipated when they thought this fraud would be temporary and undetectable. The legal documents they signed in your name are now binding them to financial obligations they cannot meet because the money they used to maintain their lifestyle has been frozen by federal authorities. The medical procedures they underwent using your insurance are creating health complications that perfectly mirror the spiritual damage they inflicted on you. Mysterious illnesses that doctors cannot diagnose, chronic pain that medication cannot relieve, anxiety disorders that manifest exactly when they try to sleep or find peace. The credit they destroyed in your name is now destroying their ability to function in society. The false persona they created is crumbling as background checks reveal discrepancies that make employment impossible and housing applications automatically rejected. They're discovering that identity theft isn't just a crime, it's a spiritual violation that creates karmic debt requiring payment in ways that transcend financial restitution. Every moment they lived as you, they accumulated energetic obligations to your bloodline that are now being collected with supernatural precision. Your protection is now absolute and visible to anyone with spiritual sight, manifesting as an energy field that repels manipulation attempts before they can even be fully formed. The ancestors who intervened during your darkest hour haven't returned to wherever they came from. They've taken up permanent residence around you, creating a barrier that no amount of black magic can penetrate. Your spirit guides, the ones who were always there but couldn't fully manifest while you were under attack, are now operating at full power, orchestrating coincidences and opening doors with supernatural precision that makes success feel effortless and natural. The karmic father who helped orchestrate this conspiracy is facing consequences that extend far beyond criminal charges and prison sentences. The generational wealth he tried to steal from your bloodline is being stripped from his, redistributed according to cosmic law that recognizes no statute of limitations on spiritual crimes. His own children are discovering their inheritance was built on theft, and they're making the choice to distance themselves from his corruption rather than become complicit in it, choosing integrity over financial gain, even when it means starting over with nothing. The ripple effects of this exposure are extending into every area where corruption had taken root. Other victims of similar schemes are coming forward now that the pattern has been exposed and prosecuted successfully. Law enforcement agencies are sharing information across jurisdictions to identify additional cases where vulnerable individuals were systematically defrauded by networks of corrupt professionals. The precedent being set by your case will make it easier for future victims to get justice and harder for predators to hide behind professional credentials and institutional authority. Watch how quickly the false twins' story changes now that they realize they're caught. A person who claimed you were mentally unstable is suddenly desperate to convince investigators that you're perfectly sane. The one who filed reports about your erratic behavior is now trying to recant testimony they gave under oath. The individual who swore you were incapable of managing money is begging federal agents to believe that you're actually a financial genius who was simply being persecuted by jealous family members. But you won't be accepting any apologies or reconciliation attempts. Chosen one, the version of yourself that tolerated their abuse, died in the fires they set around your life. What emerged from those flames is someone they've never met, someone who sees their manipulation tactics with crystal clarity, someone who understands exactly what they are and exactly what they've done, someone who operates from a frequency so high that their lower vibrational energy cannot reach you anymore. The stolen clothes are being returned by federal agents as evidence is catalogued, but you won't be wanting them back. Everything they touch during their years of deception carries their energetic signature now, and your elevated vibration would be polluted by contact with items that were used in rituals against you. New clothes purchased with your rightfully restored funds will carry only your energy signature and the blessings of those who truly love you. Your new life begins the moment you sign the documents that restore your legal identity and financial access. The bank accounts that were frozen while this investigation proceeded are about to be unfrozen, with balances that reflect not just what was stolen, but what that money would have earned through proper investment over the years. The credit reports that were destroyed through identity theft are being corrected to reflect your actual financial responsibility. The legal standing that was compromised through false psychiatric evaluations is being fully restored with documentation that proves your competency was never actually in question. The false twin is watching your transformation from whatever distance their house arrest allows, seeing you become everything they tried to prevent you from being, and their regret is literally consuming them from the inside. They had access to genuine love, authentic connection, and partnership with someone who was destined for extraordinary abundance. They traded all of that for temporary control and stolen money that they'll never get to keep. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this entire ordeal, chosen one, is that you emerged from it with your compassion intact. The people who tried to destroy you don't inspire hatred in your heart. They inspire pity. You understand that anyone capable of such elaborate deception and spiritual theft must be operating from wounds so deep that they've lost connection to their own divine nature. Your victory doesn't require their destruction, it simply requires their removal from your energetic field. The investigations are concluding with convictions that will be upheld on appeal. The financial restitution is being processed through systems that cannot be corrupted or delayed. The spiritual justice has already been served through natural law that requires no human enforcement. And you, chosen one, are stepping into a new reality where abundance flows freely because there's no longer anyone positioned to block or steal it. Your story will become a template for other chosen ones who are still trapped in similar webs of deception and theft. The documentation of how this conspiracy was unraveled will serve as a guide for investigators working similar cases. The spiritual mechanics of how your protection activated will be studied by healers helping other energy theft victims. Your victory is not just personal, it's a breakthrough that makes it easier for every chosen one who comes after you. The rags to riches transformation they tried to prevent became the very mechanism of their downfall. Your rise from artificial poverty to rightful abundance exposed every lie they told and every document they forged. The money they stole became evidence. The identity they usurped became their criminal conviction. The energy they drained became the power that activated your spiritual protection. And now, Chosen One, as you stand in the ashes of their conspiracy, holding legal documents that restore everything they took and more, surrounded by spiritual protection that cannot be breached and financial abundance that cannot be stolen, you understand the deeper truth of what just happened. This was never really about money. This was about proving that chosen ones cannot be permanently destroyed, that divine justice never fails, and that light always overcomes darkness, no matter how elaborate the darkness believes its plans to be. The millions are arriving. The justice has been served. The protection is permanent. And your new life, the one they tried so desperately to prevent, begins now.